So we'll go ahead and get started. I'll introduce myself first, and then we'll just roll right into it. So my name is AJ Richards. I was born in Utah, and we moved down here to Phoenix, Arizona in 2008. I run a CrossFit gym in Mesa, Arizona, and then founded what's called Rush Club. And so my intent today is to share with you about myself in a way that maybe has some relatability for you guys, even though we don't know each other, but really to be more about what it took me to get to where I'm at and where I'm going. I'm nowhere near where we intend to get to, but I've learned a lot of things over the last 3 years since the main portion of my entrepreneurship, if you will, started, which is Rush Club. It's been a lot of trial and error, and what I've learned the most about it is the majority of the success comes from up here first, from what's in your mind. So your mindset, the power of your mind has an incredible amount of influence in the success of any company, any startup, and any entrepreneur, their influence. So this is the first time I've ever done a PowerPoint presentation, so I'm just going to put that out there and clear the air. Like, this is brand new for me, all right? What I do for a living is put on a show, and I get to walk out on stage, and there's a few thousand people, and we stream it live to, tens of thousands, and this is totally different. Okay, so my slideshow is primarily pictures, and I'm just going to tell stories that go along with the pictures of the slides. That works better for me because I'm a storyteller. So if this is different than what you're used to, hopefully in a good way. I was in the military for 10 years, and we had a joke that we called it death by PowerPoint. And I'm committed that this is not death by PowerPoint. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. So the topic is engineering your future, commitment to what's possible in the face of not possible. And the reason I chose that as the title is because when we started Rush Club, it just was a concept that didn't exist anywhere. I wasn't following anybody's format. I wasn't following anything that was already existed. The closest to what we have is what I would compare what the combination of a CrossFit style competition mixed with UFC entertainment would look like. That was the only thing we had to go off as a foundation of what we could possibly create. So a lot of the conversation that was had when I would share with people in the beginning what it is we were doing was, that doesn't sound like it will work, or good luck, or we'll see, just a lot of, I wouldn't call it negativity, but just nobody was sure because it didn't exist, right? Like, you take something as simple as, what are those, hoverboards? Like, if you would have tried to present that concept back when we were just riding bicycles, you would have got all kinds of resistance to that concept. And now almost every kid has like these hoverboards, right? So that's why I chose the topic. So first of all, who I am, I'm a husband and a father. I have 3 daughters. My wife and I got married when I just turned 20 and she was still 19. My wife and youngest is back here joining me today, and they're a lot of fun. I come from a family of 5 boys, so to have 3 girls was a shock. Is a shock every day, let's just put it that way. So my oldest is 16. My oldest is, I'm dreading that number, but my oldest is going to be 12 this year. My middle is 6, and my youngest is 4. So if you hear any chirping in the back, that's my youngest, and I'm happy to have her here. So I am the CEO of CrossFit Mesa and the CEO of Rush Club. And then I also do coaching for people as well, people who have projects they want to put together or just need help getting past any barriers mentally towards something they want to accomplish. Sometimes it's relationships, sometimes it's business advice, and sometimes it's just personal, like, why am I feeling this way? How can I get past this way of being? I really discovered that as a possibility for me to be there for people as a CrossFit coach. Owning a CrossFit gym is very different and unique than what most people realize. We are a community, and so it was kind of a shock the first time somebody came into my office and started talking to me about their personal relationship with their spouse, and all I thought I was there for was to teach them how to pick up a barbell and put it down. And now I'm giving relationship advice. And I welcomed it with open arms, because if they trusted me enough to bring that to me, there was a responsibility I had for them, and I was okay with it. It just was different. So my story starts in Utah. That's where I was born. So like I said, my wife and I were married. I was 20, she was 19, and I deployed 2 weeks after we got married. We had our marriage already established, our date already set before I was called up to be deployed, and we chose that we got what's called a warning order that's like, hey, you might be deployed and you might not. And so we already had our wedding set, and I just said, hey, let's just go ahead and keep the date set, and if we do end up getting deployed before we get married, because we already had a set date, then it wasn't meant to be, and if we have our wedding before, then it was meant to be. Like, we just kind of rolled the dice, so then we kept the date. Well, then I got the order that, yes, you are going to be deployed, and it was 2 weeks after our date of being married, so we went ahead with it anyway. So just a picture of my unit and I out there. We never got into direct action, if you will, direct combat. We were hit with rocket-propelled grenades a few times from the other side, but personally never had to engage the enemy, which was, a blessing down the road, because it's not something that I have to deal with or manage mentally for myself. There's a dorky picture of me. I guess I'm trying to be Rico Suave with we called those glasses right there, if you don't know, they're called BCGs, which stands for birth control glasses, because ain't nobody touching you with those on. So that was the nickname for them in basic training. And then the bottom right, my uncles and family, they're all ranchers. That's my heritage. So they all ranch and move cows in northern Arizona. Just like you'd see the Western movies, that's what they do currently. So that's my relaxation. That's where I go to get away. For me, with all of the stuff we have going on with my businesses, everybody needs to have some sort of an outlet or some sort of an escape so you don't burn out. And for me, going out in the middle of nowhere where there's absolutely no cell service, no way to get contacted, emails, anything like that, I think is crucial for being able to recharge your spirit, recharge your mind, and just get back to what really matters. All of the stuff I'm creating matter, but what really matters is my place on the planet and my existence on the planet, and how I can kind of be at peace or connected with that. So that's where I get to go to remind myself of what that's like. So then we moved from Utah to Arizona, like I said, in 2008. And I went from the Army National Guard that was in Utah to the Air National Guard here in Arizona. And I had a job that you can tell I was totally thrilled with. And that's really where I started discovering my desire to be an entrepreneur, my desire to do something for myself that I created, something that I really wanted to be a part of instead of going to work for somebody every day. The only thing that made me happy back then was new video games. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but there needed to be a balance. So I was totally unbalanced. It was work all the time, play video games all the time, and if you ask my family, that also doesn't work. So that's just a little bit of when I first moved down here. And then after a little bit of time being at a desk job, I was selling pest control here, and actually for Bulwark Exterminating, they're a phenomenal company. They actually are based right over here on the edge of the campus, right across from the airport. You might have seen their trucks running around, but I worked for them and I ran their national sales center, and that's what that photo is there. They're a great company, but it just didn't fit who I was. And I'm somebody who's always been adamant that I'm going to do something that I enjoy. Like if I live to be 80, I'm not going to do 60 years of something that I just think I have to do because it's what's needed or what's required, right? That just never sat well with me. A lot of people go get a job and they collect that paycheck, and that's what they do. They exist for their paycheck. Didn't sit well with me. So even though that it was a phenomenal company and anybody working there would be lucky to work there, it just didn't work. So I started exploring other ways to get out of that. I enjoyed being in the military, something I enjoyed doing. So I actually got into private security. So the picture down here in the bottom left was with a company called SOC, Special Operations Consulting, and I went back over to Iraq in 2010, and we just provided security for the entry of the base. And I got to work with 500 soldiers from Uganda, and it was one of the most rewarding experiences I've had. It was more rewarding to do this than it was to actually go over the first time with my unit. Because in this role, I got to provide leadership. as an NCO, an enlisted person in the military, you get to provide leadership, but it's on a smaller level. On this level, it was like, here's your entire position, and you have these people to help you get it done. Do whatever it takes to make sure it's safe. That's up to you. And so then it was like, okay, here we go. It's a process. So I'm in meetings with colonels and generals and people trying to get things secured for the gate and, you know, all that kind of stuff, which gave me a chance to really provide leadership. And if I look back, it would probably be one of the first areas I really got to explore myself in that role of being a leader. So that was Special Operations Consulting, and I still have guys from Uganda that stay in contact with me. That we made friendships, and you know, they're always trying to find a way to get here. So if you guys know anybody, or if you're from out of this country as well, there's a lot of opportunity here, and they're always say, how can you get me there? And I'm like, I don't know. I'll take care of it if you get here, but I think that's all on their part. So, and then I also started another company. So I went here, I was there for about 3 months. And I didn't stay because it was too dangerous. Surprise. I went to Iraq, and I'm surprised it's dangerous. I wasn't surprised that it was dangerous, but what I was surprised in is that I wasn't issued a weapon to defend myself, and I'd been there for 3 months. Because at that point, the control had been transitioned to the Iraqi government, and they had to approve me for my weapons card. And I had a wife and 2 kids at home, and so it wasn't worth it. And also the whole, everything going on over there started drawing down, so the contracts or the money to be there was less and less. So I came home, went back to work for Bulwark Exterminating. They graciously let me back to the company, and I worked my way back up into the company and found myself again not being satisfied, even though I'd worked myself back up, because I was still working for somebody, and I was still answering to their schedule and their time. So I started my first business, which was Specialty Pest, and I got a dog that trained to sniff out bed bugs. So that was my first business. And we would travel all over the valley with Lucy? I don't remember. I think it was Lucy. She's like an employee. Like people were like kind of, oh, it's a cute pet. Well, it's not a pet. It's a working dog. So when I sold my company, I sold my working dog. And it's kind of weird because it's a dog, and I have a pet that I love. His name is Thor. He's a boxer, but she was an employee, so the employee went with the business, right? It's kind of a different concept, but we traveled all over the valley. She's an amazing employee, amazing dog. We had fun. You know, when we were home, we played, right? So she's still a dog, but we traveled over the valley checking hotels and bed and breakfasts and people's homes and stuff like that, doing inspections for bed bugs to see if they're around, because it was this massive problem, it still is, that all of a sudden started kicking back up. So that's what we did for a while. But it did get to the point where, because I don't speak dog, it was one of the most stressful jobs I've ever had in my life, because we would drive clear across the valley to go do an inspection, and dogs are not much different than people. If you have one, they can be stubborn. And so we'd go in to do an inspection. She'd sit there and not move. And I'm like, come on, seek. And she just looked at me like, I'm off today. And I'm like, come on. So my entire livelihood depended on an animal searching for bed bugs. And so I started turning down jobs because I was so stressed out to, is she going to find them? Is she going to do her job? You know, it became just so stressful. So that was my first experience being an entrepreneur with that job there. Then I got into CrossFit Mesa, got into CrossFit. So while I was working at the pest control company, I started doing CrossFit. I actually started doing CrossFit when I went to Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio to reclassify for the Air Force. And while I was there, I discovered CrossFit, started participating as just an athlete in the class. Got my butt kicked every single day, and I loved it. Like, here I am, active duty, actively training in the military, and I'm getting destroyed in these workouts. And everybody that was beating me were dolphin trainers from SeaWorld. And I'm like, I'm military, you're a dolphin trainer, and you are destroying me. I need to change up my training game. So I started CrossFit. Came home, did CrossFit for a while, discovered that that's something I was really passionate about, working with people, helping people, and coaching. That's something I really got connected with. And so I made a choice that the next business that I was going to be in was going to be to own my own CrossFit gym. Now, I had no money, none. And so I appealed to my mom to give me a loan. and I had to face all the no agreement with her being, concerned about my family. I think even one of the excuses she gave me was, it had nothing to do with the money. My mom had money. It was that it was going to take me away from my family. And so I had to, my mom is not an entrepreneur. So in her vision, that I would be so busy that I wouldn't be able to be there for my family, and grandma only cares about her granddaughters. So if that was going to take dad away, she wasn't going to have it. So I appealed to her a little bit more, and finally she gave in and said, okay. And so I started CrossFit Mesa in my garage with $5,000. And that was in March of January of 2012. My first two or three students, one drove all the way from Gilbert out to Santan Valley, which is way out this way, about another 40 minutes maybe, and would drive out there every morning and train with me. He is now my partner in the gym, and that's actually him right there, Craig, and his wife, Brittany. So we started that in 2012, and really had no clue what I was doing. None. Here's the thing about me. Dropped out of high school, joined the military, never went to college. So everything I've done is through trial and error, and it's been tough. So had I had the skills behind me, it could be said that I might be further along, but you never know. I don't have any problem with myself and my life and how it's gone so far. I just have learned from it. So I didn't have any background skills or anything training on how to start and run a business effectively, especially in terms of finances and book management and all that kind of stuff. That's the one area that I wish that I had more training in, and instead now I hired out. So we started CrossFit Mesa in 2012. The next move we made within 2 to 3 months was to this little shack right here. It's about 1,000 square feet. It cost me $500 a month, and my main concern was, can I pay the bills? I opened the door, and my first goal was to pay the bills to keep it open. That was it. That's all I cared about. That happened within about a month, because CrossFit is the fastest growing sport in the world right now in terms of training. So it was actually, all I'd do is slap a CrossFit name on my building and on my on social media, and people started coming. So it was the management that I had struggled with. And then after being in this building for about 6 months, I moved across the street, expanded, and was in about 3,000 square feet. And then within about a year and a half of being open, we moved into this building right here, which used to be a Hollywood Video. And it's 6,100 square feet. And we moved in there about 2 years ago. So the business has been good. Now, where I come in as an entrepreneur is, and to share with you guys, is I started out this business and this one with one partner. And then before I moved from here to here, I had 5. And I had 30% ownership of the company, and I was doing all the work because I had no clue what I was doing. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And I was putting all this time in, there was no money coming in, and they wanted to see it grow before I got paid. And I was working 16 hours a day or more just to keep going. And I started getting burned out. So what I didn't know was how to be, first of all, how to say no. And back then, I didn't know my own value. So I was always quick to give it away. Always quick to give it away. And we ended up having another partner come in, buy out all of my other partners, and it was just he and I for a while. And then he realized there's a lot more work to be done in a CrossFit ownership than what he wanted to do. So we struck up a deal. And the deal was, he's going to give me 100% ownership of my gym. I'm going to pay him $1,000 a month for the next 3 years, which would recoup the base investment, right, with no return. And then we did something amazing. I signed away $1,000 a month for the rest of my life. So again, hadn't learned my true value yet. I mean, that's the craziest deal ever. We have attorneys looking at the contract right now saying, what's this deal? Who would ever sign away $1,000 a month for the rest of their life? So we're not worried about it. The guy's a friend of mine. After some negotiation, it'll be okay. He'll get a return on his investment, but that's what the contract looks like. So I'm learning from a lot of bad experiences, right? That's really what I want to share with you guys. See, here's something about me. I do not care to look bad for people if it helps them, right? Because I know who I am. I'm totally comfortable and confident with who I am and what I'm creating. But if I can share with you guys openly and authentically the things that I screwed up in, no matter what it is you're looking at the moment, it's okay with me. Because I don't wear that on myself like, oh, I look like an idiot. I am an idiot. That was the dumbest decision ever, okay? And that's okay, because that's how I've learned. So that's kind of my experience here at CrossFit Mason. I'm going to glance real quick at my notes, because one of my biggest concerns, guys, was not that it was like this amazing presentation but rather that I got, that I presented to you some important things that I've discovered for you, not for me. And you can take them how you want them. So I got them all. So the next one for me is Rush Club. So I'm running my gym, and things are going really well, and this idea comes across the table was, what if you took, what would it look like to combine Fight Club meets CrossFit? That was the idea. Fight Club of CrossFit. Somebody was doing a lifting class up at a place called CrossFit Scottsdale, a friend of mine, and he said CrossFit Scottsdale After Dark. And I was like, well, that sounds interesting. So I called him and I said, what is that? And he said, well, just think like the lights. He's like, it's like Fight Club meets CrossFit. And all of a sudden my mind explodes, like, dude. But when he explained to me what they were doing, he said, think about turning the lights down and chill music, and you're just lifting. And I'm like, that is not at all what Fight Club looks like. So I said, do you mind if I run with this idea? Can I take this idea? I have some ideas I'd like to put with it. Can I use that? And he says, I don't care, because he had no intent to do anything with that other than turn the lights down and lift weights to some chill music. Like, that's weird, but whatever. So what I envisioned was this Fight Club, right? Like two people going head to head, surrounded by people screaming. That's immediately what I thought of. So we started in February of 2013. I had $40. That's what I had in my budget to start this idea. I went down to Home Depot, I bought caution tape and 2 construction lamps. That's where my budget went. I borrowed somebody's gym, because my gym was that little tiny one you guys saw, had no space for people. And we asked if we could use their gym. We went in there, we turned all the lights off, turned on our construction lamps, and wrapped caution tape around the edge of the construction lamps, around the backside of the pull-up rig. And now there's this square, right, this arena that we made. And that's what it looked like to start. And we sold tickets for $5 a person, and 130 people showed up to our first show. At first, Rush Club was only a extra revenue generator for my gym, because a lot of CrossFit gyms in the Valley will run, or all over the world, they run competitions on a regular basis, and it brings in extra money. You pay a fee to sign up, to compete, and that goes into my pocket as the gym owner. Well, when 130 people showed up to watch this, immediately I said, this is its own company. And we went and started a new LLC, which was Rush Club LLC. And so that's where it started, with $40. And so originally we started out as to be like a single round elimination tournament. So we brought in 4 guys and 4 girls, and we paired them up, and if you won your first round, you got to move on to the next round to compete for the title, right? So you only competed twice in an evening if you won your first one. And then that's how we started. It was a tournament. And then we did 7 original Rush Clubs until the final Rush. So in 1 year, we went from February was our first Rush Club, and then that was in somebody's gym, and then we went to the parking lot of Monty's Casa Vieja, I think it's called, on Mill. We were in their parking lot for the second one. Arizona Event Center, I think it's called, on Country Club, and then we were in the Deuce. Downtown, it's this old bar and grill downtown Phoenix. It's awesome. So we crammed them in, boom, 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 one right after the other. So we did 7. And then we did an 8th one that we called the Final Rush. The Final Rush was in, it's called the Press Room in downtown Phoenix. There's a lot of bands and stuff like that, underground groups that play in that area. So we did the Final Rush, and the Final Rush was named that because I didn't have the confidence to keep growing what was taking off. That was just always up here. I didn't know that I could handle it. And my team, they were just behind me, whatever I decided to do. So I called it the Final Rush, and they didn't know that it was the Final Rush because I was quitting. And that was my way of quitting, is saying, it's Final Rush, it's over. We tied it all up, put a bow on it, and we're complete. And that's why we call it the Final Rush. Then what ended up happening is I started into transformation, personal transformation. I ended up having a guy join my gym. His name's Steve Hardison, and if you're ever curious, look up The Ultimate Coach. I think it's ultimatecoach.com, and this is Steve UltimateCoach.com, that's what he does for a living, is he's a life coach. He coaches successful CEOs from all over the world. People fly in from Japan to meet with him for a couple hours every 2 weeks. And I was fortunate enough that this guy was brought into my gym. Like, it's fate. Fate brought him into my gym. Whatever your beliefs are, God directed this guy into my life to help me on my path of transformation of who I thought I was to find out who I could be. And through Steve and some coaching with him, he turned me on to what's called Landmark Worldwide. And I went into this program, and it really opened up the world for me of what I had created or what I was creating and why I was scared to do something or what was causing me to hold back. Why was it the final rush? And what I discovered is I just didn't have confidence in myself. Like, Rush Club was starting to take on this beast of a movement, and this guy didn't think he was capable of handling that. This guy was somebody who was a quitter. I had a new job every 3 months from the time I was 16. 3 to 6 months I had a new job. Quit, new job, quit, new job. Because again, like I said, I had this thing that I wasn't gonna work for anybody that I wasn't happy with. Well, it started becoming a habit. I would always find reasons to quit. It was never my fault, right? So I'd find these reasons and excuses that my employer wasn't paying me right, or my hours were terrible, or somebody screwed me over. I mean, all of these different excuses that were up in my own head that would cause me to find a reason to not be there. So one of my favorite concepts is that language creates reality. Never underestimate your ability to speak something into existence. And what comes with that is integrity. Cleaning up your integrity first. Without integrity, nothing works. When you have full integrity in your life, when you speak something into reality, it becomes reality. But it's connected everywhere. If you're out of integrity in a relationship and you're saying, we're going to build this business to be global, your subconscious is going to say, bull crap, because you're not in integrity over here. It's all connected. If you don't think that your success in your company has, or lack thereof, has anything to do with being out of integrity and somewhere else, you're wrong. And look, you can fight it, and you can put all kinds of resources into something to keep making it happen, and I know people do that, and I know it happens, but eventually it comes down. It'll crash down eventually. Maybe a few years you may make a ton of money, but at some point, being out of integrity will catch up to you and will crash. See, what happens is when you have integrity in your life and then you speak something, you wouldn't dare say anything that you don't know you can't create. That's what happens. When you commit to having integrity in your life, you wouldn't dare say it unless you know you could create it. And that's how you start living your life. And so that's one of the things I discovered through my transformation and my training. It was really hard. It actually took some, there were some things that had to be cleaned up in my life that I'd rather spend the rest of my life in combat than do again. But if I hold on to that, then I'll never do that again. But now when I say it, I'm cautious about what I say, and then when I say it, it happens. And that's been my biggest source of power for myself, is having that integrity in my life. So let's move on here. So now we're in Rush Club 2.0. Okay, so we had the final rush. I did the Landmark course January 10th, the weekend before the final rush, and I walked out of there that weekend and I went, oh, game on, baby. Like, nothing's gonna stop me now. I'm not an idiot. I mean, I'm an idiot, but I'm not stupid. I know I know what's possible. So we recreated Rush Club. Now you saw, let me just go back a couple of slides. This is fun. This is the Deuce. This is the environment of the Deuce. It was one of the most exciting places we can be, but it's kind of stuck there. Like, it's not global inside of this old bar, right? And then we move ahead after, and now we are moving into Rush Club 2.0. So I want to play you guys a couple of videos, if you don't mind. Let me get this set up real quick. So that's our sizzle reel for what Rush Club is, and you might have noticed a couple of things in there. So first of all, we are the first head-to-head weight class-based functional fitness competition. This doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. That was probably one of our biggest challenges to get people to see, is the value of that. The reason for that is CrossFit has the CrossFit Games, and it's a test of the fittest man, fittest woman, and it's at any size. Big, small, bulky, whatever. If you make it to the CrossFit Games, they're there to test the fittest. They don't care how big you are. So the community that we were putting this business into from the beginning was a community of people who were in that mindset, the test the fittest. Like, weight classes shouldn't be around. And then we said, no, hold on a minute. If weight classes were around, we can now let people compete at that weight against somebody at the same weight and programs specific for that size. So what we are is an expression of fitness. We are entertainment for this genre. And there is currently no other company that's doing it successfully. Where our whole goal, there's 4 million people doing CrossFit and growing. There's nobody in this industry that does something like this specifically to entertain that audience. That's one of the reasons for our success. The other thing on there, and a more of a personal and emotional triumph for me, is if you notice the guy's missing the arm and missing the hand. We are also going to be the first event to allow a professional stage, and I know that we have the Paralympics and things like that, but we're talking entertainment, celebrity status athletes. So we have designed the ability for athletes at a level of extreme professionalism and intensity in this type of sport to be able to go head-to-head with adaptations. So we have athletes who are missing arms, missing legs, or in wheelchairs that are the most inspiring people that you'll ever meet, because despite their injury, despite being born without a hand or born without a leg or whatever, they've not let that stop them. If you ever have a chance to visit with them, their outlook on life is unbelievable. It's like nothing's in their way. They're going to figure out a way to make it happen. You might have noticed we call it an adaptation. And it's because we don't believe in disabled or disadvantaged. And if you ever ask them, they don't either. If you ask them how to describe themselves, they adapt. They adapt and overcome. So we're the first place in the world for adaptive athletes to get recognized as elite level athletes in a competitive or entertaining environment. And the response from that community to us is one of total gratitude, because most of the time they show up as sort of a pat on the back type environment, like, oh, good job, and they're like, I'm just working out, why are you cheering for me? But in this case, it is a competition, so the cheers are welcomed, and so they're extremely excited to have this as an opportunity. We'll feature our first adaptive chair division in June. If you guys have ever been on social media and saw the guy with missing legs and he's strapped in his wheelchair climbing ropes doing handstand push-ups, he'll be here in June. He's competing for our first adaptive chair title. His name's Zach Rule. It's unbelievable. I saw that video of him doing clapping handstand push-ups while strapped into his chair. I couldn't believe it. And he has nowhere to put that on display and be recognized for that other than video, social media clips. So we're giving him a place to make that known. So I'm going to play this video for you real quick. This is an actual Rush Club duel, a head-to-head duel, so you kind of get a sense of what you would see at the event. All right, so we've got Tommy Venus and DJ Brimhall. These guys have had 30 days to practice the workout. They know exactly how they're going to perform every rep, when they're going to take a rest, if they're going to take a rest. So they've got all of that behind them getting ready to go into this workout. One of the questions we always ask in some of these movements is, are they going to take a break during the movement?
Yeah, do you think they'll break on these pull-ups?
I don't expect that they will.
In this particular case, they have 50 pull-ups they have to complete before moving on to the next rep. So the question is, are they going to stop and rest? Is that going to be a part of their strategy, or are they going to finish? And for this level of an athlete, 50 pull-ups to complete is not a big deal. So we're seeing them here go through all 50 without resting, which is a smart choice because these two guys, they're not going to stop on any of these movements until towards the end. So they both finish the same time. Now they're into what we call kettlebell thrusters. Each kettlebell weighs 35 pounds, so you're looking at a combined weight of about 70 pounds there. This is basically just blowing up their arms more. After all those pull-ups, now they've got more shoulder work that's going to just destroy those arms. And then now they're starting to tax the legs, getting into the squats here.
So close all the way through. You see the live scoring there. That's really cool to see exactly how elite these guys are and how really intense this is.
Yeah, these guys are neck to neck. You know, the age difference is also pretty cool here. DJ's into his 30s, and Tommy is young. I think he's just barely 20, and that's a testament to DJ's athletic ability, being 10 years older than Tommy. He's not going to give it up without a fight for sure.
No, and with Mike Landers coming up later in the show, you can see how intense and how active the judges are in these duels as well.
So right here, when DJ went straight to the deadlifts, I mean, we gave it to DJ right off the bat because there's not enough time to rest. Like, Tommy decided to chalk up, and DJ went straight into it. So we thought for sure that Tommy was going to take over on this one. But obviously that didn't happen. He was able to make up some time. You'll see right here towards the end, DJ only needs one more rep on the deadlift, and he can't quite lock out that knee. He has to have both knees fully extended, hips open at the top. That's why the judge is giving him that no rep. And if you watch, if we go back real quick just to the first part there, you'll see he gets no rep and decides to put it down. Tommy gave up. Tommy quit. Put the bar down, stepped away, and then when he sees DJ get no rep, he sees his opportunity, jumps in, pulls out his last two deadlifts, that's 365 pounds, by the way, and passes DJ just barely.
Wow.
And there's your winner, Tommy Venus, the men's middleweight undercard for Rush Club 005.
So close and so intense. These guys are really elite athletes, but when you look at that and you see, it's important to go to the finish, play to the gun every time.
All the way. DJ wasn't too happy. But when you talk to DJ afterwards, it had nothing to do with Tommy. He was disappointed in his own performance. So afterwards, he calmed down. He's like, they hugged it out. So that's a little bit about what Rush Club looks like, what Rush Club is, and where it came from because of my own development for myself. And to think that this would not exist because I was going to quit, because I didn't think I had what it takes to be an entrepreneur, to run a business of any size. Really I thought that maybe I just need to stick with a local CrossFit gym and just be satisfied with that. So that was kind of where we're at now. So you can see these two right here. These are both Army veterans, lost their legs in combat. So like I said, we have the ability, and then we've got our two girls right here who lost their arms. Something that's really awesome. We talk about the inspiration component. That's Kendra Bailey. That's Crystal Cantu. Kendra was born without her arm, she below the elbow, and Crystal lost her arm in a rollover accident. And we've got a podcast that we did with her with both girls and Crystal's boyfriend, who was actually driving the truck at the time. The first image that she was shown out of surgery when they took her arm, she went into surgery not knowing that the arm was going to be taken. They thought they could save it because she could still move her hand. And then she woke up and her arm was gone. So the first image she saw was her boyfriend Crystal's boyfriend showed her a video of Kendra training. And that gave her inspiration to get back at it. And within 1 month of surgery, she was back training at CrossFit. And it was really awesome to have these two girls on stage competing head to head. And just people had chills when they realized that was the connection they had. Kendra is actually our adaptive upper women's champion currently. Crystal says she'll come back and get her shot again, so try to redeem herself. So this weekend actually is the next Rush Club, and Mike Gallardo is our current adaptive lower champion. Mike's going to defend his title this weekend on Saturday against a guy named Derek Wida. If you have ever seen anything on YouTube with the big guy, the guy with the beard and the tattoos everywhere missing the leg, and he's totally crude, that's Derek, and he's a lot of fun, and he'll be here this weekend. So the how is a lot of what I've already been talking about, but the how, without integrity, nothing works. I already mentioned, and all things are created through language. So there's a really good example of this. Helen Keller. You guys know Helen Keller, right? You're all familiar at least. So the version of the story that I know is when she didn't have any language until 7. And not until 7 did she have any memories at all. And she actually says that prior to 7 years old, it's just black. There is nothing, no context. So nothing existed. And if it's that powerful in a story like that, it would stand to reason that if you have the integrity in your life and you have the ability to create all things through language, then whatever you want to create for yourself is possible. Obviously within reason, right? You have to have integrity with that. It's like, I'm going to fly. Well, guess what? Gravity exists. So don't let me know how that one works out for you if you think you're just going to jump off a building and fly. So, but if you have integrity, you would never say that. Does that make sense? So there's still a context there. If you don't count your words, as the most valuable asset you have, you will not succeed. Your word is what matters in your success. So if you tell this was a hard lesson for me. Matter of fact, one of my partners, our chief information officer, he came in with some money to buy out some debt we owed. And I said, hey, we've got this company that's going to give us some socks that we can sell, some sports socks that will sell for $6,000 so I can pay you back your $2,500 and we'll be good to go. So I gave him my word. Well, then the socks didn't show up and I didn't have $2,500 to cover it. And so for a year, we had this source of contention with us that he didn't get his $2,500 back. And it was because I gave my word in something that I didn't have 100% control over. And that was a valuable learning opportunity for me to realize that I'm never going to do that again. I'll never give my word when I don't have 100% control over the outcome of that experience. So, number 2, find a coach. You must believe in yourself, and if you don't, find a coach that does until you do. So if you are having a hard time believing what you can do is possible, find somebody who can believe in that for you and help you through that. You also should find time to meditate. So my schedule is almost every single morning, 3:30 a.m. till 10:30 in the evening. And the reason for 3:30 is because I coach 5 a.m. classes. I need some time in the morning to be able to meditate, to read books, to study before the world wakes up. That is not going to be my schedule forever, trust me. As soon as I don't have to coach in the morning and maybe I don't have to get up till 8, I'll get up, maybe at 7 or 6:30, right? So it's only 3:30 now because that's what my life looks like currently. Number 3, have your why. If you guys have read the book Simon Sinek, you'll get that. If you haven't, I highly recommend it. Simon Sinek wrote a book called Starts With Why. It basically compares, in the book he makes contrasts or comparisons to, I know people in here are going to be all up in arms, but Apple versus Microsoft, right? Apple said we do this because this is our why, and Microsoft, this is what we do. That's why we use Apple phones, we use iPods, we use all the things that Apple makes because they had a why and we connected with the why, versus the what, which is we make computers. So why would I ever buy a phone from Macintosh? I know they have tried, but why would I ever buy a phone from Microsoft when they make computers? Because that's what they sold us on, right? So when you're creating something, know your why, so people can get enrolled in that. So number 4, be bold. The amount of risk you take is proportionate to the return of success that you stand to gain. If it doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that later, but the amount of risk you take is proportionate to the return of success you stand to gain. So if you're taking a big risk, big risk, big reward, there's all kinds of different ways to say that. And there's a concept that I like to go by, is to seek more problems. So who and where did it start that the problems were a bad thing? Because I know for myself, every time I have a problem and I find a way out of it or figure it out, I'm stronger and I don't have that problem again. See, we live life avoiding problems. Like, how do I not have a problem? Well, when you do that, there's no growth. There's no state change, right? This just doesn't have that opportunity. So seek more problems. And when you do that, be responsible for that, but when you do that, you'll find ways to grow and you'll develop yourself. Don't be afraid to ask for help. One of the dangers for new entrepreneurs is to think that they have to do it all. That was the case for me. I wanted to wear an S on my chest because, like I said, I had something to prove. High school dropout, didn't go to college, all of these things, I had to prove something. So I wanted to try to do it all. And it was hard for me to give up control of my company, and we would not be where we were at now if it wasn't for my team. Just it's as simple as that. Be as specific as possible. So I didn't finish that sentence there, sorry. It's important that the language you use to describe your business is very specific. Example, we will be as big as the UFC in 5 years. Freaks me out to say that, but it's very specific. If I tell you I'm going to be as big as the UFC in 5 years, does that tell you kind of what I'm up to? Like, that's simple, right? It's big, but it's simple in terms of people understanding, and it's very specific. It should scare you to say it. If not, it's not big enough. So let me give you an example. This is for me, my own personal, this is what happened. Our last Rush Club, we were 20 minutes late going to broadcast. Nobody has patience anymore, especially 20 minutes of patience. The show's just not going to come on at 20 minutes, right? That's crazy. So I'm standing there. I've got a sponsor who paid $15,000 for the broadcast, and it's running off their website, and we're 20 minutes late, and they've been promoting it for a month or more that be on our site at 6 p.m. we're going live, and my phone is blowing up. What are you doing? Blah, people are leaving nasty messages on their website. We knew you guys suck. And I'm like, oh my gosh, right? So my production company is scrambling, trying to get things going. And that crappy little voice in my head shows up and says, oh, you suck. It's over. You're done. And immediately I caught it because of the training I've been in for myself, my development. And I say, wait a minute. I'm going to be causing the matter. Causing the matter means I'm going to choose where I have control, and I'm going to be full out when I find that area of control. I have no control over going live. As soon as we go live, though, I have every bit of control of the experience for people when we do. So I looked at my play-by-play live color commentary guy, and I said, Jim, we can't control being 20 minutes late. It's done. But when we go live, we're going to put on the best damn show that anybody's ever seen. For all I know, ESPN is watching. They'll call me on Monday and say, hey, we saw your show. Great concept, terrible execution, we're going to add to it, or we can, right? So, and I said those words. I put it out there, and I was very specific. ESPN will call me on Monday. On Monday, I got a message from a girl who's the executive assistant for a broadcast company that does all of ESPN3 soccer games. Gives me chills every time I get to share it. Because she said, my CEO saw your show and loved it and wants to put more power behind the broadcast. Are you interested in talking to him? And I said, well, yeah, please connect me. And they also broadcast Thursday NFL football. So we went from a local company who does great local work to somebody who does national and international work by being cause in the matter, by making a statement and being very specific on what I had control over and what we could do. And that only came from somebody who's gone through the process of failure, creating challenges for myself, and also knowing what's possible, right, where I can have control or cause in the matter. So the next one, Be Hungry. Les Brown, if you guys don't know Les Brown, do a YouTube search of Les Brown. Awesome speaker, motivational speaker. He talks a lot about being hungry. If you're not hungry for something, if you're not hungry to create something, also a new book that just came out by Damon John called The Power of Broke, same concept. If you're hungry or if you're broke, you're going to find ways to make things work. It's just, you need it. If you're not willing to work 120 hours a week, when you start, you're not hungry enough. So not everybody is committed to that. And sometimes you'll get lucky and you may have a job that just takes off, or you might create something or invent something that's boom, takes off, and you may not have to get there. But most people, you're going to have to learn how to put in that work. And I'll tell you, when you're doing something you love, you don't even notice it. You really don't. You actually have to schedule free time to make your life work, because you will burn out, but you don't notice it. You're just like, go, 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 go. Things are they're just amazing. Let me read you a quote real quick because I don't want to get ahead. So this is a quote by Alexander Graham Bell, and this goes into number 6 was be specific and just work for it, and things will happen. Like, why did I said ESPN would call, and somebody that works with ESPN called? How does that work? I've heard that a lot. So here's the quote by Alexander Graham Bell. What this power is, I cannot say. All I know is that it exists, and it becomes available only when a man or woman is in the state of mind in which he or she knows exactly what he or she wants and is fully determined not to quit until he finds it. What that power is, it's there. It's the universe. I'm telling you, the universe provides. There's an energy that brings in, and I'm not like, for me, I'm not like, I say meditate, but for me, it's like trying to, I'll show you a quick story with my meditation. I got ADD, and I'm also dyslexic. So I read this book on how to meditate. Start with like this waterfall, right? So the water's just pouring over the waterfall, and it's like pounding on the rocks, and then it goes into this rushing river, and then it goes a little bit calmer into a calmer river, and then it gets quiet into a creek, and then it gets into a pond. And then in my head, there's some flies buzzing, and then a fish jumps, and then more fish jump, and then a freaking bear comes out somewhere and starts catching the fish, and then my meditation's gone. So that's what meditation looks like for me. It's very difficult, but I keep practicing, right? So that ability to tap into what's possible for yourself and what you have to create is extremely important, and only happens through practice and through meditation. Number 8, flow like water. Anybody know who said that? Anybody heard that video? Bruce Lee? Flow like water, my friends. Be willing to allow your business to grow and flow with the demand of your product. Okay, so if you want to create something, don't be so stuck on it that you have to have it done that way. If you're so stuck on it, it has to be done that way, you'll miss opportunities. Sometimes my partners are like, wait a minute, we think this should go this way. And I really have to stop myself and look, because my natural way of being is like, well, let's go. And most of the time they're right. I mean, I've got 5 business partners. So I've got 5 heads thinking about one thing where I'm just like, like tunnel vision sometimes. So be willing to flow and let things adjust to the market demand. How we inspire our employees. What time? Anybody have a time for me? Oh my crap. Didn't think I could even do an hour. So I'll wrap it up real quick for you guys. We inspire our employees in Rush Club that they can do anything that they want to do in our business or on their own. We have no problem with people creating their own ideas. A lot of people will bring in different concepts for our company that if they match the outline of the company, we let them basically become the CEO of that vision. So Rush Club is growing because of everybody in it. If the janitor comes up and says, I have an idea, I'm all ears. And if he says, I think we need to do this, and it works, I now put him in charge of that. And I give him the resources he needs to make it happen. Like, we don't take that from him. Now what happens is everybody comes into our company knowing that there's possibility for themselves. Nobody's ever stuck where they're at. There's always a possibility to create and become their own boss, their own person. And again, we believe that anybody can be a leader. So I'm just going to finish with this slide. What scares me? And what scares me is what's possible, and what's possible is what we go for. So we're going to be streaming to 500,000 people by the end of the year. Reality TV show by the end of 2016 as well. 5 years, I'll be the CEO of Rush Club, the most entertaining head-to-head sports in the world, and we'll inspire 1 billion people. That scares me to say it, and so I say it often, because at some point, that's what's going to be reality. Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate you being here, and I'm available for any questions. I didn't bring any cards because I'm totally prepared like that. So there's my name and email address. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but thanks again.